The other thing that's quite interesting in the book is the book goes from 1932 right up to 1947. So your main character in the book, Antonia, is almost 12 at the time. She has her 12th birthday, and she's such a child. You know, she's very black and white, and she falls out with her sister Hildegard, and I hate her, I hate her, I hate her. And you see her go through these different stages of her life. She becomes a bit of a rebel in her teenage years and skips school a couple of times. And then the whole reality of the war just kind of, I mean, she just becomes a completely different person by the end. She obviously isn't, but she just is quite a different person by the end of it.
I suppose the idea is that maybe she grows up, or
yes,
you know.
But you didn't pick this up from the diaries, or did you?
I don't know. I suppose some of it must have been from the diaries, because some of the comments that were made, and maybe some of the letters, because you had a sense that some of the sisters maybe didn't get on, and what they were like. Some of the letters are the documents from earlier on compared to later on. But I think a lot of that was interjected. Yeah, I think that. I suppose what I wanted to do as a writer, I wanted to make people read the story, obviously. And I wanted, I'd like them to discover the story as I discovered the story, through the letters, through the documents, through the diaries. And obviously that's difficult, otherwise you'd have to have a whole pile of books this size and a whole pile and the but to make it the discovery the same, to sort of replicate that, because I was just sort of amazed, I was translating these letters and documents, and then I was reading about it, and I was just amazed and amazed and amazed. And I wanted to recreate that idea. And I thought, well, how can I do it then? And I like stories, so I thought, well, make a story with these people as well. So, and I wanted younger audiences as well to identify with it. And it's funny, you think if something happens in the past that it's sort of distance from you and it's not relevant, but people don't do the same things as we do now. But I read an awful lot of history about what happened then, and of course there were lots of delinquents and there were lots of young people doing exactly the same things that they do now, and causing their parents problems, maybe not quite in the same way, but most of the things that I wrote about I've taken and pinched. If they've not existed in my family, then I took them from other people's family and sort of wove a story around them.
So when you were actually composing it, did you actually take each character and kind of, flesh them out into what they would be, or was it just taken from the beginning and worked forward? How did you actually organise it to write it?
I think I always had once I decided who the main character was. I mean, Antonia is made from my mother. My mother's name is Gertrude, and my mother absolutely hated her name, so I was never ever going to call anybody in the book Gertrude. That's another thing she said, that all Gertrudes in films are ducks, or they're always ridiculed. There's a name that's often ridiculed, but she's sensitive. She'd never liked her name, so there was never going to be anybody called Gertrude. But and as the diaries are from Antonia, as the letters, lots of letters or the references, or Antonia sent back some of my mother's letters that she sent to her, I don't know why. So I thought, in my head, she's the character, and I always thought I wanted somebody younger who would grow older, who would learn, or just grow up. I think that's what it's about, and against that backdrop. And the other characters, I did, I suppose, I specifically had things in mind. I wanted somebody to be pretty attractive, but I didn't want anyone to be what they seemed, because I think that's how I discovered these characters. I thought my Antonia was like this, and then you sort of go backwards and find out that there's other letters or diaries or documents that suggest something quite different. And Maria was the one who's going to be the nun, and is supposed to be, holier than thou, and yet, there's another whole history there as well. So I think I wanted people to see in one way, and then the truth to be revealed at the back there, or something quite different. Stephen Spielberg, the King guy, Stephen King, who wrote The Shining.
It is Stephen King.
It is Stephen King, sorry, just a momentary lapse there. He said fiction is the truth behind the lie, and that's what I think. So although I feel this is all true, some of the things happened to my family, some of the things didn't, and so I shaped it, and I hope a story that I hope reveals the truth.
Yeah. Well, I think it has. I mean, it feels very complete as a story. You don't feel like there's just different strands pulled together for the sake of it.
Yeah.
and as James Robertson said, it's very hard to read, but it's harder to actually stop.